Oluchi explained to Hugo that there was a special reason behind her pregnancy. Hugo's own mother-in-law Nubber had placed a curse on her. Despite this, Hugo wasn't alone. Out of misunderstanding. Once upon a time, in the faraway village of Arulu, there lived a kind and talented woman named Ugo. Ugo was expecting a baby, her belly round and full of life, but her happiness was shadowed by sadness because her husband had passed away just 6 months after she became pregnant. Despite this, Hugo wasn't alone. She lived with her mother-in-law, Nubri, who took care of her as if she were her own daughter. Every day, her mother-in-law would say kind words and gently touch Hugo's stomach, telling her, "You're going to give birth to a wonderful child." And these words were a comfort to Hugo. During a time of both joy and sadness, Hugo was known throughout Arol for her extraordinary skill in making beautiful clothes and shoes. People from all around visited her to see and buy the lovely things she created. But as is often the way, not everyone was kind to Hugo. Some people were jealous of her talents and her kind heart. Especially because she always had a smile for everyone. No matter what, this made them talk behind her back and not in a nice way. Despite the mean words, Hugo didn't let it bother her. She loved making children laugh and giving them little treats whenever she could. Her kindness made the children love her a lot. They would play around her, and some would even help her with small chores just to be near her. Ugo didn't have a lot of friends among the adults, but that didn't matter to her. She focused on her work and on spreading joy wherever she went. Her heart was as big as the sky, and she believed in being nice to everyone, even those who weren't nice to her. This is the beginning of UGA's story in Arol, a tale about kindness, Nabber's magic, and the power of a good heart. It's a reminder, that being kind and loving can make a big difference in the world, even when others don't understand you. Then as weeks turn months and months into a year, with Hugo's pregnancy crossing well over 12 months, which had never happened before, something very bad happened to the village of Arolo. The rain stopped coming and the rivers and streams began to dry up. Crops couldn't grow, and soon there wasn't enough food for everyone. This made everyone very scared and sad. As things got worse, some people in the village started looking for someone to blame for their troubles. They started saying mean things about Hugo's 12-month pregnancy, Pia's, and her unborn baby. They thought that her baby was cursed, and that's why the famine was happening. This was very unfair, but when people are scared, they sometimes say and do unfair things. Umo felt very sad and alone because of this. The friends she thought she had turned their backs on her. Now, when she walked through the village, instead of smiles, she got angry looks and harsh words. But in all this darkness, there was a little light. A young girl named Emma didn't believe the mean things others said about #Hab. Amma saw Hugo's kindness muds and decided to be her friend. When everyone else stayed away, Uma helped Ugo with her chores and kept her company. This friendship was very precious to Ugo. It reminded her that even in the hardest times, there can be kindness and love. So even though the famine made life very hard and many people were unkind to her, Hugo was not completely alone. She had others, and that made all the difference. It showed that even when things look really bad, there can still be hope and friendship. As things in Arlo got even harder, the village elders made a very big and sad decision. They decided that Hugo had to leave the village. They thought that by sending her away, the famine might end. This was very hard for Hugo to hear. She had to say goodbye to her home and all the children she loved, especially her dear friend, Emma. Before she left, Hugo met Emma one last time. Emma was very sad and didn't want Hugo to go. She said she would miss Hugo's smiles and the treat she brought. They hugged and it was a very sad goodbye. This showed Ugo how important her kindness was to Emma and the other children. Alone, Ugo walked into the wilderness and a place full of unknowns. She was scared and sad, not just for herself, but for her baby too. As she found a place to rest, feeling more alone than ever, something incredible happened. A beautiful woman appeared out of nowhere. Her name was Oluchi, and she said she was a river goddess. And Oluchi told Ugo she was here to help her and her baby. This was a big surprise to Hugo, but also a comfort. It was like the world was telling her she wasn't alone after all. Oluchi's visit was the start of something amazing. She had come because Hugo's kindness had touched the heart of the river. And now the river wanted to help her back. This was a big moment for Hugo. It showed her that even when people turn their backs on you, nature and kindness can still find a way to support you. In a quiet part of the forest and the Oluchi's watchful care, Hugo experienced something amazing. She gave birth to her baby. Just as her child came into the world, the sky opened up and rain began to pour down. It wasn't just any rain. It was a powerful, life-giving storm that spread miles all the way to Orol, ending the long, harsh drought. This wasn't just a mere coincidence. Oluchi explained to Hugo that there was a special reason behind her pregnancy. Ned Umo's own mother-in-law, Nabas, had placed a curse on her out of misunderstanding. Nanja, Hugo's mother-in-law, beneath her kind and innocent face, harbored a deep sorrow and a grave misunderstanding. She believed Hugo was responsible for her son's, Hugo's husband's, untimely death. In her grief, she thought she was seeking justice by placing the curse, not knowing the real truth of her son's fate. But Hugo's goodness and her kindness to others, especially to the children and even to strangers, had called for divine help. Oluchi, the river goddess, had been sent to protect Ugo and her baby, turning what was meant to harm them into a blessing instead. The baby was more than just a new life. She was a sign of hope and a promise of better days for the village. Uchi told Ugo that her child was destined to bring good fortune and prosperity back to our role. The baby was to fulfill a legacy that had been forgotten, a legacy of peace, prosperity, and unity for the village. After the miraculous rain and the birth of her child, Number Ugo, with her baby, now known as the goddess girl, decided it was time to go back to Orol. The village had changed a lot since she left. The rain had ended the famine, but it also brought windstorms, Tashi, and other challenges. These hard times made the villagers see things differently. They began to understand how important it was to be kind, to work together, and to have faith in something bigger than themselves. When UGA walks back into Arlo with her baby, the villagers couldn't believe their eyes. They felt many things at once. Surprise, guilt for how they had treated her, and a kind of respect they hadn't felt before. They saw how strong Hugo had been facing so much trouble, but still carrying so much love in her heart. Hugo's journey had taught her a lot. She had faith, loneliness, fear, and rejection, but she never gave up. Instead, she became stronger. Filled with love and a deep understanding of life's mysteries. And her daughter, the goddess girl, was a living symbol of all that Hugo had gone through. She was a sign that even in the darkest times, there can be light and hope. The villagers welcomed Ugo and her daughter with open arms this time. They saw that Ugo's kindness and her daughter's birth had somehow brought them all together and made their village a better place. Hugo forgave her mother-in-law, and the goddess girl grew up to be a symbol of hope for a role showing everyone, that with a bit of kindness and faith, the future could be bright and full of promise. This final chapter of UGA's story is a beautiful reminder that no matter how tough things get, there's always a way forward if we stand together and support each other. It tells us that love has resilience, and a little bit of magic can change the world. Or at least our little part of it. I hope you enjoyed the tale. If so, please like the video, share it with your family and friends, comment on it, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel and turn on the notification bell.